Story 1. I am attracted to my friend despite me being married. Background: I've been happily married for 10 years to my 31 female spouse. 7 years ago, I, currently 32 male, became friends with a girl 2 years younger than me when I was in college. We'll call her Anna. I've always been the type of guy who gets along better with women and has many friends who are women, despite not wanting to be romantically or intimately involved with anyone other than my wife. Meant to add the words, except for Anna. Anna is the only friend I have stayed somewhat close to from college, even after moving across the country. I'm the stereotypical dad friend who tries to be supportive and there for people. With Anna, she had been going through a rough breakup with a long-term boyfriend. It caused her to spiral and begin heavily drinking, but she started trying to get help for this issue through AA and other means. I'm proud of her progress so far. We've gotten pretty darn close as a result, and she's one of my best friends. The problem is that I am very intimately attracted to Anna. I didn't think she would even talk to a potato like me when I first met her, but we had a lot in common, and she opened up to me as a friend in college. This is a very difficult thing for me to handle. Whenever we talk, I get very pent up and am tempted to flirt with her or ask her for things that are not appropriate. If I can't compartmentalize before chatting with or spending time with her online, I have to rub one out while also trying my best not to think of her beforehand so I can be focused on her as a friend. The temptation to ask Anna for nudes is incredibly strong. I've never been sent a nude photo, let alone one for my eyes only, and that is something that I've always wanted. It is a simple and primal desire that I don't know how to express or control. My wife is anti-nudes for privacy reasons on top of being asexual. Our intimate life is almost non-existent because of her asexuality, which is something I've been able to live with because I absolutely adore her and just about worship the ground she walks on. My sexuality is just not important enough to me to not be with my wife. I am a fiercely loyal individual and have never flirted with another woman. While I am confident I never will, that doesn't mean the situation has been easy. I try my best to be a good friend to Anna, remain loyal to my wife because I love her dearly, and keep myself in check. It is just difficult. I feel like a monster because Anna is my friend that I think highly of and I want to be a good friend to her. I feel like a terrible husband because I love my wife with all my heart, and I accept that being with her romantically meant I would take an L sexually. I feel like an animal because no matter how hard I try, I can't completely shut down my desires and thoughts, but only keep them at bay. My life is pretty good and I'm happy to be alive, but I hate having to hide and lock up a part of me. Okay. This is a tough situation, and I would honestly say in this situation, you need to talk to your wife, because I don't know if it's that you're, specifically lusting after Anna, or if you just have these pent-up desires and there's someone that you're close to. I don't know. But I think that maybe some open, honest conversation with her, some couples therapy might be in order, because clearly you have, some very strong desires that are usually met within a romantic relationship, but not when one of the partners is asexual, which is perfectly fine. But if one partner definitely has those desires and the other one does not, sometimes you might have to talk about, how that's going to affect you in the long run, because you're probably not just going to randomly become asexual as well. You probably are going to keep having these desires, and the more that you don't talk about it with your partner and figure something out, the more that might just drive a wedge between you. Maybe this is something where it might be an okay thing for you to have a more polyamorous relationship, or open in specific regards, or who knows what. There are so many different options that could potentially be pursued, but if you don't try and at least talk about it and maybe pursue some of them, then I just think it's going to eat away at things in the long run. Story 2. Am I a jerk for not wanting to share the moment with my ex? Background: I married a narcissist and we had 2 kids, son and daughter, 2.5 years apart. We divorced. We did pretty good at co-parenting for a while, no real issues, created our schedule so he could grow his business and I could care for our kids. I bought a house close by, then he met this woman, Diane, remarried, and everything changed. They began to harass me incessantly. Tried at every opportunity to get child support lowered. He owns his clinic and I was a part-time teacher with 2 to 3 side gigs at any given time. Huge income disparity. and I had the kids 65%. Never asked for alimony, though I could have. Diane was a good stepmom, and my kids loved her. Diane had a teenage daughter who they're still connected with, but Diane started doing some manipulative crap. So my anger was there, but I didn't want to make my kids feel bad that they loved this woman who was great to them, but tortured me. After Diane divorced my ex, I was kind of relieved, and my ex was only too happy to tell me that everything was her fault. As much as I wanted to let go of it, I am smart enough to know that he was the one who hired the lawyer and stood in that courtroom trying to kick me in the stomach. And then there are all the other things he did that I don't have the characters to describe. I'm lucky to have an uncle who's an attorney and took this on as a personal matter. He kicked butt in that courtroom in what I can only describe as a Matlock moment. After my ex lost that case, he was forced to pay a bunch of back child support, health insurance premiums, and damages, including my uncle's legal fees. Thank you, uncle. Anyway, post-Diane, ex tried to act like we were best buddies. I swallowed my hate and we had a few celebrations together, birthdays and holidays like we did before. Then we met to address paying for son's college. My son had an inheritance from dad's sister who died tragically. I asked how this would be applied. Just information, no assumptions. My ex freaked out. He started yelling and screaming that I wanted his sister's inheritance. Never seen this dude so crazy. Scared my son. Scared me. I left. After that incident, kids moved in with me full time. In total, 4 years. I never took him back to court to ask for an increase in child support. They have a minimum relationship with him and his family. So this recent incident happened last August as I was moving to another city to start my new life. Youngest had graduated and I'm out. I went to ex's place with son to pick up a few things that son wanted before moving. The ex taps on my car window and I roll it down. He begins this speech about how we're at the end and in spite of everything we raised great kids, blah blah blah. I am incensed. Like, now we're old comrades? I nodded, said okay, and rolled up the window. He's lucky I didn't get out and kick him in the nards. But later he texted me that I'm bitter and I should have been able to share the moment. Was I out of line? Boy, oh boy, this sounds like a guy who it's just never his fault. No big deal. Why do you gotta hold on to this? The thing that really rubbed me the wrong way at first was the fact that he didn't own up to his own crappiness when he was with this Diane person. And like when they divorced, he's like, oh, thank heavens. That was all Diane. Diane's the real bad person here. I didn't want to do any of that. So we're cool, right? No, buddy. You're an adult human being who can make his own decisions and act on his own. You're at fault there too. You're with Diane. You had choices and you fudged up. And now he just keeps like acting like a jerk and then being like, hey, it's no big deal, right? Blah, 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 blah. No, you're not owning up to any of your mistakes. You're just trying to brush them aside. And if you can't own up to them, then somebody sure has to hold you accountable. Story 3. Today I effed up by interpreting something my husband said literally and yelling out on command. Happened a couple of hours ago. Just to preface, I, 30 female, am a doctor, and he, 30 male, works in law enforcement. We don't live in the U.S. I came down with a high fever today, and my husband was helping me take care of myself after he got home from work. My fever wasn't breaking with medication, so he was helping me sponge myself to get my temperature down. Since it was getting late, he also helped me move from the couch to the bedroom. This is where the F-up happened. He helped put me down on the bed and said, yell for me. What he meant was that he was leaving the door of the bedroom open and he was going to be outside in the living room and to yell if I needed him. I, on the other hand, wiped out from an entire day of being sick, interpreted what he said literally in the split second that followed. I honestly don't have a good explanation of why, but I think my medical brain did some mental gymnastics in the moment and thought he was trying to test in some weird joking manner if I could still speak out since my throat was sore. Completely nonplussed, I went, "Ah!" as loud as I could muster it up, which was probably very detrimental to the sore throat in question. He was confused for a second, then laughed it off because he thought I was being funny until I told him the truth. This led him to panicking that I might be delirious, and I had to assure him in every possible way that I was fully oriented. To be honest, this was the kind of thing I might have misinterpreted even if in completely good health. I'm just more aware of it and able to cover better for my one-track thinking when I'm less exhausted from being sick. For anyone asks, I know what it sounds like, and I've been to a therapist because I always suspected I might be on the spectrum or might have ADHD because my entire life I've struggled to function like everyone else around me. My therapist didn't officially diagnose me with either, but said that I may have ADHD, so I always say I have Schrodinger's ADHD. She had her own methods and was more solution-oriented about everything, and it did genuinely help me. I haven't seen a psychiatrist because I've been so busy, but keep thinking I should. I'm going to say with the way that you went off on the end and everything about ADHD and bounced around and all that stuff, I feel fairly safe in saying, welcome to the club. We're happy to have you here, but we'll probably forget that you were here and then we're going to do something else and then we're just, yeah. No, honestly, yeah, I would probably make a similar mistake if I was like fully healthy. I know I've done stuff like this where someone says something that you should logically know what it means in context. It's an idiom or a commonly used thing, but you just, like, your brain just can't possibly fathom anything but the most immediate literal interpretation. And so, yeah, oh God, yeah, no. One time I was like opening a jar of pickles and like bent over because it was like, it was hard to open, and I was literally, partner says, oh yeah, shake it for me. Apparently I was like shimmying or something as I was trying to open this thing, but of course my reaction is, I don't know how that's gonna help, and I just get stared at like, really? Story 4. Am I the a-hole for not telling my father and stepmother about my son's birth? My, 26 female, father, 59 male, has been dating Paula, 38 female, for 4 years. I never got to know her well as I was about to move out when we met. My sister, 20 female, still lives between our parents and likes Paula but finds her annoying. Paula has an odd attitude towards pregnancy. It became the most obvious when my cousin announced she was expecting back in 2021. Her daughter would be the first great-grandchild. We hadn't been sure my grandma would be around for that, and after an emotional announcement in which everyone was overjoyed, Paula commented that she felt it wasn't a big deal and didn't get what all the fuss was about. She kept that stance for all 9 months, but once the baby was born, Paula suddenly became a bit too interested in her, which my cousin was clearly uncomfortable with. My husband, 28 male, and I announced our pregnancy earlier this year. At first, my father was over the moon. Since this was his first grandchild, I believed that would last. But, as I heard from my sister, Paula was just as condescending as we expected, if not more. Whenever I announced anything about my pregnancy or baby, sex, first kicks, ultrasound pictures, etc., Paula always reacted with one of 3 phrases. Okay, that's not a big deal. Or, is that all she talks about these days? I didn't care about it at first, but after a few weeks I started to notice my father was also losing any interest he had in my pregnancy. As the months went on, he became increasingly detached and standoffish. He started to either ignore or not pay attention to most of the updates I made on my baby. He also didn't come to our name reveal. We did that instead of gender reveal. It was literally just a lunch party with a game we made up, or the baby shower because, and I quote, Paula doesn't think it's worth it. My son was born on Halloween, and I decided not to tell my father and Paula. After almost 9 months of excuses and disinterest, I didn't see any reason to. I was in the hospital for 4 days, during which only mine and my husband's closest friends and family visited us. The day before we left, I posted a picture of my son on Instagram, and that's when my father found out. He called to ask why I hadn't told him and Paula or invited them to meet my baby. I didn't lie. They didn't make any effort to get involved, both emotionally and physically, during my pregnancy, so they'd have to wait for baby news like everyone else. My father and Paula are furious, accusing me of using my son as a pawn and keeping them away out of pettiness. They're saying I'm holding the fact that they missed a few dumb parties against them. My husband, and pretty much the whole family, agrees with me. My sister, while mostly on my side, still thinks I should have told my father since this is his first grandchild and he had to find out he was born through social media. She thinks this is all Paula's fault and I should apologize to our dad. Am I the a-hole? Your dad is an adult and he is responsible for his own actions. He doesn't get to hide behind like, oh, well, Paula said it wasn't a big deal, and so I didn't want to go against her. I would make her upset. Please. Like, no, you're a grown man, 20 years older than Paula. Won't get into that. But you're an adult, and I'm sorry. I don't care how much you might think like, oh, she's talking about this too much. It's her first baby, your first grandchild. And you're really going to be like, oh my God, is she talking about her pregnancy again? Yawn. No, suck it up. Be excited for her. It's exciting. God's sakes. You're lucky that you weren't blocked from her social media, so you had to find out days after that. Story 5. Aunt goes apecrap over me refusing to write a book for free. I, 25 female, made a post to Am I the A-hole and relationship advice around Christmas 2023. They're still available on my profile if you want the full timeline. I hope this is the final update, or if there's another update, that it's a happy one. This is the SparkNotes version after what happened last night. January 2023, my mom passed away and 2 of my aunts took me in over time. I have 3 aunts. This is about Aunt 2, 50-plus female. My aunt had gone bat crap out of nowhere, or it seemed that way to me. I was planning to spend Christmas alone to mourn my mother, as it would be my first one without her. My aunt invited me to Christmas with them, and being kind of excited to see her grandkids that I took care of for the 6 months I stayed with them, I agreed to go. Didn't even get to go that far. Christmas Eve, Aunt 2 messaged me about what seems like her asking me to script, film, and edit a video series based around her family being the real family of Santa Claus, with her husband playing the part of Santa's son. No offer to pay me for it or anything, just went straight into it. I told her it was something Hallmark had done several times over and that it wouldn't be a good idea, let alone not even something any of us had the time or budget for. I told her that saying our family was the real family of Santa and trying to paint us that way would only lead to us getting jeered at and had no want in doing it. She went bat crap, accusing me of saying her family isn't a real family and saying that she needs to focus on her family and that she should have let me rot with my mother. It confused me as to why she suddenly started saying all of this and hurt me extremely. I was alone in my house and crying the whole night trying to figure out what happened, as that was decidedly not what I said. Aunt 2 started saying BS about me and to me to the point I just had enough. We had another argument when I told her I was going to stop any contact with her for a while, and she made no moves to reach out and apologize. She said she did apologize. She didn't. She made a blanket statement to a family group chat that I'm not even active in saying, I'm sorry to everyone about how I've been acting, I'll do better. That's not an apology. That's the coward's way out. I made a post to Facebook laying out what happened, how it made me feel, and that I was cutting her out of contact with me. Had to make the post to the rest of the family because they kept pushing me to try and talk with her without them knowing the full story. I didn't want to sit there and message each one of them individually. Here's where the entitlement comes out in full. This entire time I thought she was being like this due to a misunderstanding. It turns out it wasn't. She did it on purpose. She commented on the post where everyone could see saying, really? You started it because you didn't want to help me write my book because you didn't want our family stuff out there. F you. She didn't even refute anything I said, didn't try to make excuses. It wasn't because of a misunderstanding. She said all that crap on purpose because I wouldn't write a book for her. I didn't even think she wanted a book. She made it seem like she wanted a video series. So yeah, that's what I'm dealing with now. Sorry about the length. Honestly, it's one book, Michael. How long could it take to write? 20 minutes? Like, this is the mindset. It's a book, even if it's kind of like a shorter book. It's not like that's a lot of work and just a weird thing to tell someone like, okay, this is what you're going to do for me. Excuse me? What? What in the entitled bat crap nonsense is this? Oh my gosh. How do people get like this? Where they just think they get this stuff. They just get to be like this. Like, folks, I think we need to be more direct with the entitled a-holes in our life and just call them out immediately and all the time. We're being too nice. We're being way too generous with these people, just like, well, they're being kind of entitled now, but usually they're pretty great, so I'll just let this go. No, we've allowed them to all become ridiculous, and we need to stop them before they start trying to steal Christmas. Story 6. Am I the a-hole for rolling my eyes at my boyfriend's proposal because it took 25 years of me begging? Yesterday after dinner, my 52 female boyfriend of 30 years, 53 male, proposed to me. He just walked towards me holding a box and said to open it. It was a ring, and I had pictured this moment a million different times, but never thought I'd be so apathetic. My boyfriend then said that he was retired now and wants to kick back and enjoy life with me and would love to do it all with me as his wife. A nice speech and all, but from the 5-year mark of our relationship onwards, I had been making clear my deep desire to marry and was consistently dismissed, even given empty promises, gaslit. We had been through the gamut with therapy, and one counselor implied that me telling him we needed to go to therapy and getting his butt on the couch still means nothing if his mind has been made up. I was in denial about the fact that he was just giving me the false illusion of progress to stall. My boyfriend and I have 4 kids. The oldest 3 are adults, while the youngest is a 15 female, was sleeping over elsewhere when this all went down. All of our kids went to a private school filled with typical Southern soccer parents. I had to endure PTA moms' jabs about me not sharing a last name with my kids. Pre-teen years were hell because the other kids would taunt my kids by saying, "Your dad would rather sin and go to hell than marry your mom." My boyfriend's mom would tell him marriage would be selfish on my part. It's just a piece of paper. My boyfriend ended up rising up the ranks until he became an executive. I was a stay-at-home mom, so I felt like there was always a power imbalance, exasperated by the fact I could be tossed any time. I partly did stay because I wanted my kids to have the best life, and because I felt lucky and proud to be partnered with such an intelligent, successful man, but also because I loved him. These past few years, my boyfriend's career has taken a downturn. He will never be poor, but the company he was part of took a nosedive during 2020, and he had made enemies out of associates and board members. He decided to step back from his role and take the generous severance agreed upon. Now he's living off his investments and wants to relax. I did not like how his career ended and how he treated people, and had been deciding whether I wanted to leave and find somebody else after our youngest turns 18. So the proposal was a shock because I should hope that he noticed I have avoided conversations about the future as of late. He rattles on about downsizing our house so we can travel and also cutting back on our other expenses. But we're not married, so it's all his money and house anyway. He did notice my eye roll and was offended. He asked what's wrong, and I said that suddenly, now that he's downsizing, I'm good enough to marry. He got mad and said that now that he's downsizing and no longer an executive, I suddenly think our relationship is disrespectful, and started implying I was a gold digger. I was so angry I walked out and said I might just go out looking for a respectful relationship because I don't know what respect is anymore. Am I the a-hole? I don't think so. I don't think it sounds like the greatest relationship that you've stayed in. Like, seriously, folks, when there's a weird imbalance between, like, what each other wants, if one person's like, I really want to get married, that's important to me, and the other person's like, no. Like, that's not, you don't just stay and hope that just kind of works itself out or whatever. So that, I'm not entirely sure why you stayed, but you had the kids and stuff. And you know what? Like, it's one of those, like, sunk cost fallacies, too. You've already invested time, and now you've got kids and family, and, you know, you remember the good times. So I can kind of see your point. I'm definitely much more on your side. And yeah, the fact that you rolled your eyes because now he, like, proposed just walking over, but here, now we can get married. Like, he's lucky that your eyes didn't roll out of your head. That's so dumb. Like, I would have, like, tossed the ring back to him and been like, no, we aren't. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.